He just said, I don't remember that. Not it didn't happen. He's like, I don't remember Cris saying that to me. He can't not remember it. He just don't want to go there, don't want to talk about it.
I guess so.
I took my earpiece out, and I told him, I'll never be on your show again.
Yeah.
And if you ever say anything like that to me again, I'll punch you right in the fucking face.
It was exactly how you said it. He didn't.
I wouldn't lie.
I know.
He
told the truth.
All right, well, hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Fully Loaded. Got my man here, Cris Carter. We have our first guest ever, Stephen A. Smith. He wouldn't let us have a guest until you got on. I said, I have some ideas. He said, shut your mouth. No ideas. Stephen A. or no guest ever. So if you didn't come, we'd never have a guest.
I got you.
So thank you for being here, man. I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate you.
It's great to be here, man. Great to meet you as well, my brother.
Yeah.
It's good to
for
see you,
sure.
baby. It's good to see you,
I
baby.
really appreciate it.
No doubt.
And, I mean, we go back a long, long way.
Yeah.
And it probably goes back to Stephen A. knowing my brother Butch, who was involved in the NBA.
Yeah.
Then that got it started. And then mid-2000s, I started working at ESPN. Him and I hit it off.
Yep.
And the relationship just grew from there. But a great deal of respect for him and for what he's done. And not for the news that he reports, because the hidden gem is him and I know. I mean, this dude has a wealth of information that he has not told the public that has saved dudes' careers, have saved families, have saved people money and embarrassment. So for me, I respect him for a lot of things, but I had to tell you that this dude has word on people, and he still allows them to function, even if they got a beef with him. So I got a great deal of respect to how he's conducted himself, you know, behind the microphone and the stuff that people don't know about.
Well, I've interviewed a lot of people, done a lot of podcasts, and nobody's ever said what you said before we started today.
Right.
Which was, yo, bring it.
Yeah.
Like, it's what I do.
Right.
I can answer, but bring it. So I appreciate you for who you are.
But that's how it is on the show, because he's talking about bring the heat every day.
No doubt.
And then if you catch me on an off day, bring some heat.
Well, it's real hypocritical for people to, you know, have a show like I have, a debate show. You're in the news business. People come on. You got them on live television. In my case, in some instances, they're being taped or whatever. And, you know, they've got to be asked tough questions, pertinent questions that's in the news that the public wants to know about. You do that to folks every day. And then to come in front of the camera when it's your turn to be in the seat and you're going to be like, nah, don't ask me. No, I don't do that. You know, I know how to answer questions, and I know what I can't answer. And then you just look at people and be like, I can't touch that.
Right.
Not today.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
coming, but I
Right.
can't touch
Right.
that today. But you know, you don't
But there's a
run from
reason
questions.
behind that.
That's right. You don't run from inquiry. You don't run from questions when you sit in a seat like I sit in.
And it would make the world a better place.
I think
when
so.
I grew up, we talked about debates.
Yeah.
We had classes on debates.
Sure.
Whether I knew the topic or not, that's
Sure.
what we did.
Sure.
And sometimes nowadays it's like we can't have a discussion
Right.
and not agree.
Yeah,
So
and because you know we cave into the trolls, and you've got a lot of people, to be quite honest with you, that are in this business that have no business in this business, and the reason they have no business in this business is because they can't take what they dish out. You see, like, if you got me, you got me. If you right, you right. If you wrong, you wrong, you wrong, you know, and it's just that simple. It ain't the end of the world. I've been wrong before. Hell, I'm going to be wrong again. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
I mean, that comes with it, but I'm going to be right more than I'm wrong. And most importantly, I'm going to be honest and authentic about where I stand, what I believe, and why. And if somebody comes along and comes across the way that's educated and knowledgeable about a subject more so than I am, and they educate me about it, then I'm gonna modify my thinking because they edified me. You know, I saw y'all talking, and I remember what my man here said, and he was talking about me. Much love and appreciation to you for the comments you made about me, because I thank you for that, because I pride myself on that. And for me, when I'm doing a debate show, I remember, me being the executive producer of First Take and all of this, I said to everybody that's coming on the show, here's what I need. Here's what I need from you, because everybody got a different talent. But I know our audience. And so as a result, my audience will like this from you. They like this from you. They like that from you. I'm not telling you not to be your true, authentic self, but make sure you bring that element, because the audience needs that for this show. And the one thing that I challenge people about when they talk about folks talking with me and debate with me, if you notice, 95%, more than that, You see people laughing and smiling with me and all this other stuff because they know the objective is for you to come at me, and it's okay. Oh, no, it's all right. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to have fun. And by the way, I'm learning. I don't know football like this. I'm a reporter for 30 years. I ain't no damn Hall of Famer. You understand? I don't know football like this man does. I don't know football like Shannon Sharpe and Ryan Clark and Swag Who do. I don't know basketball like Kendrick. I know basketball. Please don't get me wrong, because I've been covering it for decades. So there's an expertise that comes with it. Yep. But I would never, ever allow anybody to think that I think I know more than cats who actually played on that level and have been in those locker rooms. And when you show them that level of respect, all of a sudden everybody knows it's a good time because they know, because I'm going at them and I'm like, treat me like I'm the scribe, I'm the pundit that came up to your locker to challenge you. Right. Don't treat me like I'm somebody that didn't play but acting like I did. Right. And I'm not challenging you on that level. I'm challenging you like, I saw this. Tell me I'm wrong. Right. And then they'll come at me and they'll try to challenge me, and then you'll see them laughing because I'll go like this. Interesting. Didn't you say something totally different 3 years ago, 3 months ago, 3 weeks ago? Because I was watching, And then all of a sudden they start laughing and we going back and forth because they recognize there's a level of respect that I'm automatically giving them. And that's how it's supposed to be.
And also, you can't have the shelf life that you have had unless you create an environment that is cultivating to that type of spirit. Right. There's other people, they're going to dominate. This is what's going to happen. Right. These are going to be the topics. These are the ones I'm going to take. These are the ones you're going to have to take, all the leftovers. And that's why so many people, so many athletes, so many entertainers have enjoyed being on the show. Right. But even at this stage of your career, doesn't it just piss you off how every day you still have to prove yourself?
Sometimes. Here's why it doesn't really infuriate me to the degree you or others might think. Y'all produced, and then y'all still got to go out on the field on the basketball court. You got to do it again. And then after that, you got to do post-game interviews, and you got to be mindful of that. And then you got to walk out into the real world understanding that you represent not just yourself, but your team, your organization, your brand. And you've got the fourth estate, meaning the media, as watchdogs, chronicling every little thing that you do along the way. So my attitude is, if you have to deal with that, who am I to bitch about dealing with that? I understand what comes with it. I get it. I think the thing that infuriates me is, particularly with professional athletes, is when they don't see the level of sensitivity that I have, and they don't appreciate the level of sensitivity that I accord them, and I conduct myself in the fashion in which I conduct myself. He said it best. Yo, bro, I don't get personal, Shawn. I mean, if I get personal, I'm getting personal. There's been a couple of instances where I was clearly getting personal.
But you said that.
And I said that. And I said, no objectivity. Yes. This is personal. This is not about the profession. Yes. I make sure I'm honest and open with my viewers, my listeners, et cetera, et cetera. But that's only on a rare occasion, less than a handful of occasions spanning 30 years. I don't do that. My whole point is that your personal life is your business. Now, if it gets in the police blotters or it becomes for public consumption and it's open for debate, I'm going to holler at you. Now, if you allow yourself to be inaccessible, that's on you. Because I was looking for you. I'm willing to talk to you. Oh, by the way, I'm willing to give you the platform to express yourself. See, we live in a world right now where, because of the advent of social media, with everybody subscribers, followers, everything like that, especially with everybody having a podcast, YouTube channels, all of this other stuff, you got cats walking around going like, bump you. I don't have to communicate with you. Really? Well, don't. Because it don't stop me. You're not realizing, for a professional like me, you've made my job easier. It's actually harder when you do talk to me, because then I have an inherent professional obligation to take your spin, your perspective into consideration. And I'm very big on that. I don't care what anybody says. It's like, The first thing, if you talk to me, the first thing I'm going to do is make sure your perspective is understood. Now, that might not influence my perspective, but a lot of times it does. But I'm going to make sure, no matter what, you're heard because you took the time to express yourself. I'll never forget Carmelo Anthony got at me one time. Boy, did he get me good because I love that brother. I really, really do. I've always loved Carmelo. And he was at the Olympics in Brazil, and, you know, it was a story percolating about the Knicks and, you know, something with his career. I don't know if it was the Knicks, it was something. I forget the exact context of the story. And he was pissed at me. And I like, what? And I said, he said, you didn't call me. I said, you were in Brazil for the Olympics. He said, that never stopped you before.
Right.
Shut me down.
Yep.
Because he's absolutely right. That would not have stopped me before. I didn't think the story was big enough because it was just a comment and just or whatever, and I didn't think the story was big enough to call him in Brazil during the Olympics where Krzyzewski or somebody might have been like, what the hell are you doing talking to the media for? I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but when he said it, he had me dead to rights because I always do that. If I have access to you and there's something that's involving you, you're going to get a call.
Absolutely.
Or I'm going to come see you. I'm going to come looking for you because I want to make sure that I'm fair enough to give you your perspective and to give you a chance to influence mine. Right. And when cats walk around and they snub the media and they do all of this, and then you want to go on your podcast or you want to go on social media or you want to go in front of the microphones and bitch and moan about how, you know, somebody says something. Well, wait a minute. Did you tell them they tried to reach you? Right. Did you tell them they called you? Yeah. Did you tell them they were wanting to meet you wherever you wanted to meet them to have this conversation? Right. You didn't tell them that. That's the world that we're living in now compared to when he was playing. See, they didn't do that back in the day. And maybe because it wasn't as much social media as it is now. But the bottom line is there was a character issue. Like, you have an issue with Cris Carter. Let me tell you something about Cris Carter, bro. Oh, he's going to roll up on you. Oh, he's going to roll up on you.
That's true.
He's going to roll up on you now. CC going to roll up on you. He's going to be. And his brother, Butch Carter, was exactly the same way. That's how we became tight because he was coaching in Toronto. I'm writing in Philly. But he respected my work. And if I got something wrong, he called me. Yo, man, you missed it here. I said, what you talking about? I missed it. I missed it. And he'll explain it. I either agreed or disagreed, but I always respected the dialogue. And he wasn't somebody that ran when it was time to address something. You could find him.
Absolutely.
Cris Carter was the same way. A lot of professional athletes were the same way, far more so then than they are now.
Yeah, I had a couple athletes that I had situations with, one being OBJ.
Okay.
And OBJ and I are tight. And they had a story coming out on him, and it was going to be breaking on ESPN. I called him.
Right.
And he didn't pick up.
Right.
And then I go on Meaike and Meaike, and, you know, story breaks. I have comments about it. Then he calls me afterwards. Bruh, how you stab me in the back? How you put that out there? You ain't even talk to me. Check your phone, man. I called you this morning.
That's right.
And typically, you know, I've been taking care of you the whole time.
That's right.
All right. Josh Gordon, when he had the drug incident, which I was very familiar because that was the same path that I had gone down.
Right.
I had called up the Browns, offered everything. This is what should happen. So when he flunked the other test, I said they should cut him. Not because I didn't want him to have a job, because that's what worked for me.
Right.
That's the only reason. He took exception to that.
Of course.
This guy don't know me. He ain't never reached out, tried to help me. Oh, I did reach out to the team. You didn't reach back out. So that happens
all the time.
A lot more than people realize.
But how did you learn how to do that? When did that start?
What do you mean learn how to do? Learn how to do what exactly?
Learn how to navigate that. Learn how to. Was your ego always in check? Did you always understand dynamics? A lot of people don't get what you get.
For me, it's not an issue of navigation.
Okay.
It's my individual character. It's who I am.
Got it.
I was born in the Bronx, raised in Hollis, Queens, New York City. You know, I'm from the streets. And so there's a certain code that you live by. And it's not just in the streets. It's in a lot of other places as well. But I know where I come from. And you try to look out to the best of your ability. You ain't trying to have Thanksgiving dinner with anybody or exchange Christmas gifts. But you're a man, and you're trying to be fair. Like let's say, for example, hypothetically, not to say that this ever happened with anybody, because even if it did, I would never tell. But let's just say, for example, I saw a cat, and he was cheating on his woman. or she was cheating on her man or whatever, and I covered them, man, I ain't got nothing to say. Ain't none of my damn business. You understand? Now, some people be like, this is a decent thing to do, and, you're a professional, and, but way to go. No, that's a code. You don't do that.
Hollis Queens,
you don't do that.
Number one rule there is mind your own business.
You mind your damn business. That's their problem. You
number one cause of death in our neighborhood.
Now, if it were my daughter that was being betrayed,
different program.
If it was my sister that was being betrayed, or somebody that I loved and was close, that's different. You understand? That's different. But you don't do that for the purposes of a job. You don't do something like that. You mind your damn business, and that's just you just understand certain things. And so, when he brings up a guy like Josh Gordon, just use Josh Gordon as an example just for the moment. Respectfully, we all know he ain't had one drug incident. He had several over the years. So here's what he's highlighting without him even just saying it directly. 99 times out of 100, he looked out for the brother. The second he didn't, he ain't shit. You see what I'm saying? The second he did it. That is today's generation. The cats, see to me, it's like it's the counting. It's like if you had 100 incidences and 98 of them I supported you, you only recalling the 2 that I didn't?
Right.
You just going to ignore the 98, really?
No,
that's what you're doing?
No, they don't keep score.
It's like they don't keep score. It's about the here and now. But they never take the time to say, what if we did that? Like me sitting at First Take. I've seen players, I've seen coaches, people clap at me. Okay, fine. What if I lived on that? What if I said, you came at me and I didn't even take into account how right you were, the amount of support you may have given me previously, the years of support and brotherhood and stuff like that you gave, because it's a lot of cats that I talk to off the air. It's a lot of cats that I talk to on the phone. They ain't on camera. Oh, yeah. And I'm sitting there like, yo, this is the media. This is what's going to happen. Here's what's going down. So that I'm in the news today, for example. I don't even cover politics, but I'm talking politics, and I'm talking about Vice President Kamala Harris, and I'm talking about President Joe Biden, and I'm talking about former President Donald Trump. I'm like, yo, he ain't there no more. He's not there anymore. It's not the same. Another time, yeah, this strategy is working now, but it's not going to work later.
Right.
Everybody like, selling out. But who's been right? Like, I kind of do this for a living. You understand what I'm saying? I remember that movie that I was watching, Collateral, with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, and at the end, he's screaming at him, I do this for a living. It's like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, I'm in the business. I'm not trying to tell you something that's going to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. But you want me to say what you want me to say. You're not taking into account what I do for a living, the amount of credibility that I have doing what I have for a living, what the expectation from the audience is, which is what has enabled me to do what I do for a living for these last several decades, right? And most importantly, the damage that it'll cause me if I'm anything less than what the audience expects from me, because I've trained them to know you can rely on my authenticity for me to give you what I truly believe in my heart and soul. So, again, you got to dance that dance, but it's not something I developed or whatever. It's me.
It's who you are.
It's who I am. It's who I've always been.
So Shannon Sharpe said to me, I asked him why it was so great working with you. He said, because when I'm watching some football, I can't help but see certain things. Like, I'm like the block end of the, I can't, like, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And then Stephen A comes in and says something. I'm like, huh. So can you walk us through that? Like, because it's an intro.
Walk us through what?
When you're watching a game or watching anything that's going on that let's say you're watching a game.
Sure.
Shannon's locked in on whatever he's locked in on.
Right.
Over the years, you have your perspective. He's watching something else. Then you say something to him, and he's like, man, I didn't even see that.
Right.
that's something you developed over all these years? Because the NBA. Listen, I love football. I love baseball.
Right.
Do I love basketball? Basketball didn't love me.
Right.
So I kind of don't love it.
Okay.
I love it, but I love football.
Understood.
And I love baseball.
Understood.
They loved
Right.
me.
Understood.
And I like watching basketball, but hell, I'm trying to figure out what the hell's going on half the time.
Right.
I love listening to you talk football.
Mm-hmm.
Always have. Can you give us some examples? Give me some examples of some of the things that when guys like that are so locked into this dude misses block, his assignment, things that you're able to see or things you're focused on that they might not be focused on.
Well, let me say this first. I can sit here and talk to you about football for the next hour. I could have all my facts in order. I can know every nook and cranny and not miss a beat. And I won't know a speck of what he knows about football, what Shannon knows about football,
right.
what Ryan Clark, what all of my NFL contributors.
Right.
And, I have aspirations to be on the NFL. Like, my idol is Howard Cosell. So I have aspirations to, be a part of Monday Night Football, the coverage I'm talking about. If that day ever comes, and I don't know if it will, the first thing that I'm going to do is thank all the NFL players that have taught me the game, because they've taught me the game.
Damn, that's a treasure chest.
It's a treasure chest. It's like I can't even put it into words. He was at ESPN. It would be 8:30 in the morning. I read the articles. I watched the games. I watched the highlights. And I'm one of those dudes, the greatest invention to me is DVR. I rewind. I watch something over and over and over again, a particular play, a particular sequence. I'll sit up there and I'll watch. That's why I love when it's NFL Films or it's one of the broadcast networks, like highlighting a particular play. I'll rewind it over and over and over again. I'll listen to the commentary. I'll compare it to what I read. I'll think about my own perspective, and then I'll hear all of them. And the combination of everything is ultimately what helps to formulate whatever perspective and opinion that I have. Because I'm not only relying upon myself, I'm relying on them to some degree, even if I disagree with them, because I'm taking into account their perspective before I fully cultivate and develop my own. You see what I'm saying? And so as I'm watching all of this other stuff, here's my advantage. I'm a reporter. I'm not trying to know the game like they know the game. Why? Because it's futile. Nobody wants to hear me sitting on television trying to break down plays. That's not my job. My job is the overview. Yes. What was the result?
Storyteller.
What was the result and the storytelling that comes with it?
Yes.
What you said before the game, what you said weeks leading up to the game, what you said about this particular competitor that you're about to go up against, what you said about the moment and what it entailed, what were the ramifications of your actions and on that football field at that particular moment, what kind of impact did you think it had on the game? And if so, how does that affect you now moving forward? Oh, by the way, how does it affect how you feel about your game, particularly in comparison to others who play your position? What do you think the coach thinks about you? You got a contract coming up. How you think the owner's going to feel about you, et cetera, et cetera. You're doing all of these things. They're not taking that into account. They're watching the plays. Yep. And they're dissecting what's going on that field. I'm the dude that looks at that purviews the landscape and looks at it all from a totality perspective in terms of the collateral impact that those actions would have. And I'm here telling you that. So a lot of times when you have an athlete and they might have a problem with them, I'm looking at them like, you really still haven't gotten who you're talking to. Because you see, I talk to your coach and your teammates and the GM and the owner. And there is an effect that you damn well know exists here. Are you willing to embrace and accept that? Because that's where I'm coming at you from. Yes. Not from some micro dude who thinks I know the game better than a Hall of Fame wide receiver or the Hall of Fame tight end that is Shannon Sharpe. Why the hell would I think that? I would never think something like that. I'm anticipating their knowledge, but their knowledge helps me buffer my points too. And that's how the show is supposed to be made.
Now, a lot of people and reporters and people on TV, they say, oh, I know I didn't play. But they say things that only that people would have played would say. Because every day, I'm not going to miss this.
Right.
Every day he's like, I'm not them. I'm not trying to be them. And this is man, I've stepped in a pile of doo-doo before. I ain't getting ready to do that again. So it's just like when I talk about Coach Prime. People in our industry, they very seldom ever want to give an African-American credit for being smart.
Right.
Stephen A. Smith is smart, okay? He's a former athlete, a former writer, reporter. He's just putting all them things. It's like I tell the kids at FAU, you know who your hero is? I said, it's your future self. He's made himself his hero is himself in the future. That's why he's projecting the Howard Cosell stuff. Like, that's what he's gotten to. He was just a kid, man, from New York, scrapping, trying to make it, love sports, built great relationships as a youngster that people helped him out. And now he's arguably the most successful person that's ever been involved in this debate era that we have been in.
Well, you know, it's they call it the debate era, and I understand that because the advent of the debate show, one of the things that bothers me is that all of us who are in the industry, y'all are in the industry now, having this podcast, you're in the industry.
Yes.
There needs to be an elevated level of appreciation collectively for what debate television has done. It's created jobs, and it's provided platforms for people who were formerly in sports that never wanted to completely let it go to continue their association with a world that they mastered. One of the cruelest things that we've done as a society before the advent of sports debate television is that we encouraged these athletes to give their blood, sweat, tears, and practically their life to being players. And then say when your career's over, with the exception of the select few, we'll handpick to be a coach. And don't get me started with a GM. And damn sure they probably ain't going to be an owner.
Right.
Find your way in some other field. No, what happened is that debate television came along. And because debate television, the reason why I say debate television, you're not going to go from a football player or a basketball player to hosting SportsCenter. Hosting a show like Outside the Lines or something like that. No, exactly.
Absolutely.
You're not going to do that.
Yes, sir.
But what you can do is get on the air and use your expertise as a player, former player, to debate anybody about what's transpiring in the game that you loved and what you've known all your life.
Yes.
You can do that. And because of that, it could springboard to different opportunities for you where you could continue to be an analyst. You could work for various networks. You could develop your own podcast. You could ultimately develop your own show. And you have a means to monetize yourself and your brand far beyond your playing days. Well, that doesn't happen in our business without debate television.
No.
It doesn't happen.
You guys changed the industry.
Right. So I tell people all the time, if you're going to complain, don't complain about the industry. Complain about individuals who abuse it by acting the way that they act because they're in the industry. There's a difference. He pointed out how somebody like me and others, we've got a treasure trove of resources and assets and stuff like that. That's true. But there's a level of professionalism and decorum and everything that I have to bring to the table, okay? Other folks might choose to do otherwise. In all likelihood, it's because they didn't belong in the business in the first place. Because, again, there's journalistic principles that we're supposed to bring to the equation. I'm not supposed to get in an argument with you and because I don't like you, all of a sudden get personal and start putting stuff out there. I'm not supposed to do that. I'm not supposed to go against the standard that's supposed to come along with the industry and violate all of that because my emotions have gotten involved.
Right.
I'm not supposed to do that. And that's what you have to remember.
Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because I think your sister brought it to your attention, the conversation that Shawn and I were having about your former colleague, Skip Bayless.
Yeah, she did. I didn't know. Carmen did. I had no idea.
Yeah. She alerted him and was like, And then Stephen A., he remembered that day.
Yes.
And because
it was exactly how you said it. He didn't.
I wouldn't lie.
I know.
I
told the truth.
wouldn't lie. And the only reason why I'm on that show is because of him. Now, me and him for years, due to be on TV, they were talking about the Super Bowl when Seattle they had the wide receiver was on the line of scrimmage, and they get the interception on the slant. And they're talking. I'm like, Stephen A., the wide receiver in the slot, it was his fault. He got jammed. He couldn't set a pick. And you'll see dude on the show. Dude would pick up his phone. And when he put that phone back down, he firing at people.
Right.
You know, so him and I have that type of relationship. If he sees anything, he'll always hit me up. When I have my own show talking about basketball, hey, bro, clarify this for me. So him and I always had that. So when that happened, you know, I took a hiatus from the show.
Yes.
Stephen A. said, man, I love you, bro. I'll help you do anything. But as long as you with him, I'm not going to do that. But this is the question I have for you.
Sure.
Stephen A. don't feel that way about Skip. Stephen A. believes this dude, believes in everything that he's saying. He has yelled at me about this, Cris. This dude believes every topic. And their relationship goes back a long, long way. But I think you have a description of who Skip Bayless is that is opposed to a lot of people.
Sure. Well, most people don't know Skip Bayless the way that I do. I've known Skip Bayless for over 25 years. He is definitely an acquired taste. He is a different beast. This brother's definition of a vice is drinking Diet Mountain Dew. I'm not joking.
This media.
I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah.
You know, same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. I don't know what it's been like for him the last several years since he left for Fox, but I know when I was with him at ESPN, he was jogging 5 to 8 miles a day.
He got to LA and got bigger.
I mean,
He upped the workouts.
There we go, up the workouts and the whole nine. And so that's the Skip Bayless that I know. I also know the Skip Bayless that met his now wife, Ernestine, and admitted to the Washington Post that on their first date, the first thing he said to her is, "You will never be more important than my job." First words out of his mouth. He said, and if that is your objective, you don't even need to think about moving forward.
No need to get dessert.
That's right. You understand? That's what he told her. Yeah. And if you don't believe me, go look for the article in the Washington Post. Now, white, black, Latino, Asian American, Jewish, Catholic, Christian, I have never met any man in my life that has said something like that to a woman. Ever.
Yeah.
And they ended up married. Yeah. I've never heard it. Right. I've never seen it.
Yeah, that don't work.
So he's different. I say all of that to say he's different. Now, what people don't realize about me and Skip, and in fairness, in the interest of full disclosure, we've only spoken once over the last year and a half or so. We don't speak much anymore. He got upset of something he thought I said to J.J. Redick, and he went on his podcast and attacked me for about 45 minutes. And then I flew to California and approached him face-to-face, and, you know, we resolved that issue. So I'm never going to speak against him per se, but our relationship admittedly hasn't been the same since that moment, but it doesn't mean that I don't love him. It doesn't mean that I wish anything negative upon him, because I don't. But he's just going in a different direction, and that's what he chose to do, and that's cool. To address the elephant in the room about what Cris Carter just brought up, I understand why a lot of people can't stand him. I've told Skip to his face, you don't say what you said about Troy Aikman. You don't call Chris Bosh Spice Bosh. You don't come at CC like that. You know, you haven't won anything. He's arguing with you about a football point. So what, you disagree. You don't have to do that, you know. And I thought he was wrong about Shannon. I thought that what he did to Shannon was flagrantly wrong. And I called him, and he never reached back out. And so I stopped reaching out. But I wasn't going to leave. I didn't know Shannon that well. But here's what I do know. He's a great football player. He's a damn great football mind, too. People act like he don't, you know, he may not know. You don't know what the hell you talk about. Shannon Sharpe knows some football. You know
yes, sir.
He knows some football now.
Yes,
I'm telling you, he knows some football, okay? And he articulates that as well. But at his core, he's a decent dude.
Yeah.
Who didn't deserve that. You know, and I'm thinking about myself in 2009 when ESPN let me go, And I didn't have a brother on a top-rated show that happened to be the executive producer with the power to look out. Well, I was that now. And to see him out there and to know what he brings to the table, to know he had Club Shay Shay, to know what his aspirations were, I'm like, why wouldn't I help the brother? And then I never forget ESPN was like, you sure? You sure? I mean, he's on the other side. You know, you sure you want to do that? I said, absolutely. He will help the show. He will be an incredible asset to us. Michael Irvin, he's at Fox. You know that's my brother. You know how much I love the playmaker.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he signed a deal with Fox when I was supposed to get him back, but he had gotten himself into some issues that ultimately subsided and stuff like that. But by that time, he had signed with Fox. Because if I had my druthers, I'd have had them both. Okay, I still dream of having them both again. You know, him too. I want it all. You know, because these are my brothers. And
you have to talk to my wife about coming back to ESPN.
There we go. I know, right? But I, for me personally, it's just that it's one thing. He and I have a personal relationship where we've known each other for years. I didn't know Shannon like that.
Yeah.
But it ain't hard to notice a good brother when you see one. And I said, if I don't grab him, ESPN wasn't going to grab him. Fox wasn't going to grab him, obviously. CBS, NBC, NFL Network, they wasn't looking for anybody right now. The folks were downsizing.
Yeah.
And I just said, I can't leave this brother out there like that. I'm not doing it. Why am I in this position? If I see a talented brother who I know can positively affect ratings and do a great job for us, who can fit in nicely.
And you know what you need.
And I know what I need. And I said, why would I not do that? And so that's what it was. But again, with Skip is one of those dudes, man. And I try to tell him this. He really mean this shit. And I know they don't.
Hand to God. This is what he told me and him.
Real.
I was like, Stephen A. There's no way he can believe that. He keeps saying stuff about LeBron. Stephen A. Hand to God.
Listen.
Hand to God.
And here's my story. And I told Chris this. He keeps forgetting it, but he gonna remember it again when I tell him this right now, right in front of you, Shawn. This is the way, because I was a cynic just like Chris was.
Yeah.
You understand? I was a cynic just like he was. And here's the moment it changed forever. We're doing Sports Center on Sunday mornings. And there was a segment called Old School, New School that was emceed by Bob Lee. One of the great, television hosts you'll ever find. He used to host Outside the Lines. Bob Lee is asking us a question about some athlete that got in trouble. And Skip Bayless went on national television. Now, we in the same building, but because they don't have a studio, we in two different bureau cams, two different rooms. And Skip Bayless says, I keep telling y'all, there should be a curfew invoked for professional athletes. They should not be allowed outside after 11 p.m. After 11 p.m. And I said, what? I started screaming, laughing. Oh, my God. How old are you, Skip? How old are you? Oh, you got to be kidding me. And it's a big segment. Everybody going crazy. Everybody, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm like, you're nuts, the whole bit. So Bob Lee loved it. The bosses for Sports Center loved it. Everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. Skip and I come out of the room. And I say, yo, man, I ain't into the fake shit, nothing like that, but that was fun. That was really fun. I can't believe you said that. Skip Bayless looked around. He was like, I'm serious. He said, they shouldn't be allowed out after 11 o'clock. Nothing good happens when you're outside after 11 o'clock at night. I'm dead serious. And I looked at him and I said,
that's as old school as it get.
Oh my God! And that's when I realized, he wasn't joking. And then another time to buffer that point was years later. You know, I'm not betraying the trust. He knows I tell this story all the time. I've told the story about him with that. But there was another story. The ratings for First Take before I arrived were doing well.
Yes.
But they were every day, every segment was about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow, Skip loved him. He was caught up in them the whole bit. He's more popular than LeBron. I walked off the set one time when he said that. I just walked off the set. I was like, I can't deal with it. I just can't.
All facts.
All facts, right? But once it had subsided, approximately a year later or so, John Skipper was the boss of First Take. And Skip was getting criticized in the news. I think it was I forgot whether it was Hollywood Reporter or something. Skipper was quoted because people were talking about essentially accusing him of being a caricature of himself because he kept talking about Tim Tebow. And so we're trying to go from ESPN2 to ESPN. This is a big deal.
Oh, hell yeah.
This is a big deal. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, it's very important because
there's
the real
so
estate,
many more subscribers to just ESPN.
ESPN is your default position is ESPN for crying out loud. At least at that time, it was a big deal because ESPN2 had no cachet, and we built the cachet. We catapulted to number one on ESPN2, but we knew we'd be even better on ESPN1. So it was a big, big deal. And he knows this because I'm a product of corporate America. So I'm going to be real, I'm going to be authentic, I'm going to be my true, authentic self, but in the same breath, I understand business, especially in our business. And I've had to pull his coattail at times.
Yes, sir.
Yo, man, come here, man.
Hey, bro.
Let me show you how this. I know who's upstairs.
Hey, man, if you want to stay around here.
You want to come here, bro.
You
He knows
right.
it. Come here,
You
man.
right,
I mean, come
but
here,
you
come
wrong.
here. I said you're right, but it don't mean a damn thing. Listen to me. He knows. That's why you see people, they talk shit, but when they try to act like, oh, nobody helped me, Chris Carter be like, nah, because I know Stephen A. told you something. Because they know I know. Okay? So anyway, I come outside on campus on Bristol, ESPN's campus on Bristol, Connecticut. And this brother Skip Bayless is outside pacing. Back and forth. I'm like, what happened? What's going on? He's got this meeting coming up with John Skipper. And he wants to say to John Skipper, he says, they're talking, and he brings out the quote where John Skipper said whatever it is that he said at the time about Skip and the Tim Tebow storyline. And he says, they're ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. And I'm going to tell them. And I was like, oh, no, the fuck you won't. You gonna calm the hell down right now. I don't want to hear, no. And he meant it with every bit of his soul. And I'm like, we trying to get on ESPN, bruh. We don't need this problem. This ain't the fight to fight. Yeah. By this time, we were a year or so removed from the whole Tim Tebow every day kind of thing. Because I wasn't there at the time. When I got there, I'm like, I ain't doing Tim Tebow every day. Ain't happening. Okay. But the point is I'm like, we got a chance to move to ESPN. More subscribers, more numbers, more money. What? Because you want to express yourself? Oh, hell no. And I was like, so I say all of that to say, look at the two examples that I gave you. Does that sound like somebody who thinks like the rest of us think and is like, yo, I'm with you? No, Skip, for better or worse, is his authentic, true self. When he went on Cold as Balls, Kevin Hart's show, and he sat in that tub and said, I feel I know more than nearly all of the players who played. Oh, he means that.
Yes.
He means that.
Yes.
Because understand, you can't bother him when he's watching the games. The wife going shopping. Or she's going to chill at home or whatever. Ernestine is a wonderful, wonderful woman who loves and is incredibly loyal to her husband. Shout out to her. I couldn't call him. And Skip ain't calling me. Skip ain't picking up no phone during the game. My only shot was to text him ahead of time and say, answer the damn phone at halftime. I need to talk to you now. That was the only shot. All he's doing is watching games. Basketball, football, college, pros. It don't matter. It's his life. So understand, Chris and others might be right about what they think he doesn't know compared to them. But be clear, he thinks he knows. He thinks he can tell a player, a coach, an owner, a GM, anything. He believes that he knows what they know, if not more, and he's not faking that. He's not.
So when he got personal with Chris about that, he, in his heart, believes he's 100% right.
Well,
and he reacts.
That's different. Okay. Because what he was doing was he's having an argument with Chris. And where I would tell him he's crossed the line is, how come you can't just make your argument? Why does it have to be about what he did and achieve?
Right.
Like if I'm arguing with Chris, I would never dream to say, forget Chris. Say I don't know Chris, but I'm talking to a wide receiver with his credentials. I'm not going to be like, you didn't win a Super Bowl championship, so you're nothing. Now, if he is attacking somebody who didn't win a Super Bowl championship and then saying, well, you know what, they ain't anything because they didn't win a Super Bowl championship, then I have an obligation to point out, wait a minute, bro, you didn't win one either. But I'm not going to use it to denigrate him. We're having an argument and a discussion and a debate about a subject matter, and it needs to be relevant to it. And just because you're getting the best of him with an argument doesn't give anybody a license to turn around and get personal.
So if he's so different or principled, or when he comments about, he just said, I don't remember that. Not it didn't happen. He's like, I don't remember Chris saying that to me. He can't not remember it. He just don't want to go there, don't want to talk about it.
I guess so.
I'm assuming. We're assuming.
No, that's different. I can't speak to that because, I mean, whatever evidence y'all got on your own with that, you have. I'm telling you that he believes he knows. Yeah. And he believes when he says something, he means it. Right. Is what I'm saying to you. That's what I'm saying.
Well, you know, Jamie and the crew, they brought me to Fox.
Sure.
And that was one of the first meetings. I said, do you have a problem with Skip? I said, no, I don't have no problem with Skip. No, absolutely not. And Skip had told them that.
Right.
Too. So we had squashed it.
Right.
But, of course, he didn't want to remember. Another teammate, because people ask me all the time. You know, I've had some great teammates, 8 Hall of Fame teammates. And Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
What was the rub there? Why wasn't that show as successful as other partners that you've had in that spot?
Lack of chemistry. Believe it or not, it was more his fault than mine. I've seen his friend Marcellus Wiley bring up stuff. Marcellus Wiley knows one side. He certainly never spoke to me about it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Never called, never asked, or anything like that. And I'm not hating on him for it because that's his man. Him and Max are very, very tight. But if you want to talk about me, I'm not hard to find. Ask me.
Well, we've had hundreds of conversations.
That's
and
right.
Marcellus had hundreds of conversations.
How about that? How about that?
Yes.
Yeah, so.
And is one of the many brothers and sisters that this dude has helped out at ESPN. Because, listen, when you interview at ESPN, it might be a phone interview, video interview, it might be in person. But when you leave, guess what they do?
Yeah.
Stephen A. Bro, what you think? Hey, you know him? You know her?
Yeah.
That
all the time. But I will say this. You know, I might disagree with what he says, but there have been times when I think that Marcellus has been more than fair. And he's entitled to his opinion. I'm certainly not here to criticize him. I only bring him up because when I think about Max Kellerman, I think about the narrative that he's helped put out there. And I'm like, talk to me. And all you have to do, because I might, there's certain things I may not say publicly, but I'd have told Marcellus because I know that's his boy.
Right.
You know, but it was a chemistry issue. And I think that people need to understand it was mostly my fault. I'm the leader. I'm the executive producer of the show. I'm the star of the show. I wasn't looking at Max Kellerman and saying it was his fault that the show failed. I'm talking about us. How I vibe with all the people that I vibe for. The proof is in the pudding. Look at how I vibed with the people that have been there since he's been gone. Look at how I vibed with Skip Bayless as a debate partner before he arrived. I think that Max Kellerman is somebody that I'm rooting for to return to this business. He's somebody that is nothing short of brilliant, like genius level, brilliant, absolutely true. Here's the issue for a debate show. Because you are such a genius and you are so brilliant, and you have the ability to articulate yourself the way that he does, at some point in time, you're talking and you're talking and you're talking, and you're talking above the audience to the point where they find themselves asking, what did you just say? Now, I might get it because I know you. Mm-hmm. And I know where you're going.
Right.
And I know how you feel because I'm working with you every day.
Right. And you dabble in a lot of different worlds.
I do.
But
and I know we'll
you're
get
more
into
talking
that.
about your audience,
Right.
what's going to be hot, what's going to keep building the show.
I'm on the air. When I'm on the air, Shawn, Chris knows this. When I'm on the air, watch me. At times they catch me, and I don't mean for it to be caught. Like a director shouldn't have me on camera. Right. I'm talking, but then when I'm not talking, I'm directing the show. This person, that person, wrap this up, go here, go there, keep this going. But I'm doing all of these things in the midst of the show because I know television. And so because of that, I'm watching an audience look at us for 5 years. In the last 3.5 years minimum, they were asking, what's up with this? and it wasn't resonating. They were watching, but it was almost like they were watching because that was a default position. And they were losing interest in my estimation. The numbers didn't show it, but the pulse did. In terms of our numbers digitally, in terms of me being at games and seeing the reactions that we were getting off of the things that we said, seeing the storylines that were being peeled from content that we had discussed on the show. And 99% of it was about me. About 1% of it was about us. That's not what I want. I want somebody that's going to come at it in a way where the impact is palpable enough, where it's comparable enough. And if you don't have that, then you don't have a partnership. You might have a show, but you don't have a partnership. People that are rising together. And I felt the staleness. It's our job when we're doing television to get a sense of the pulse of the audience.
Yes.
And I got the sense that the audience was losing interest. And so I knew it was me, but I said, it's us because it's a debate show. I can't debate myself, and you got to be willing to step out there, take a position, et cetera, et cetera. Not to say that he wasn't at times, because clearly he was. But Skip and I had set a standard. And so the audience had an expectation, fair or unfair, that he was going to live up to that standard that Skip had set. So it really wasn't about Stephen A. It was about the Skip element and comparing that to Skip, looking for him to create that kind of fervor. And when it didn't happen, all of a sudden you felt a staleness. And I wasn't going to sit idly by and just let it continue to feel that way. I said, we got to do something. So we are not an ideal peer, what y'all want to do. And that's how that happened. And so I root for him, you know, I mean, because obviously, listen, I got fired in 2009. That brother got morning radio and he got an afternoon show. Okay? And then obviously they had to make whatever decisions they had to make with layoffs and all of this other stuff. But this dude has been in the business working for HBO. He's worked for ESPN. He's worked for Fox. I have nothing but respect for him. He's a decent, really good dude at his core. And I'll never root against him. And so I just hope that, I just know that if he were covering boxing and interviewed me or vice versa, we could do that. If we were doing Sports Center, we could do that. My issue was he and I together strictly for a debate show. There's certain people, there's certain couples, pairs, that just don't work as a debate team. And that's all I was trying to say.
Give me one thing about Shannon, because I know, I was happy when you got Shannon, but I know Shannon a lot better than you do. Give me something that surprised you, because a lot of people don't know Shannon. Shannon is just now really starting to find himself, even though he's in TV. Bad Situation on CBS, not a format that I think highlights his ability.
I agree with that.
Getting on the debate, he wouldn't have been able to do it with you unless he got on that. And that was a great opportunity. But I do believe that even his best journalism is still ahead of him because he's still young.
Well, he's right when he says he's not a journalist, because he's not. This dude is a former football player, superstar football player, Hall of Fame tight end player, who is brilliant at football. And he's a conscientious observer. And he's got a much, much better soul than anybody would ever think to entertain.
Yeah.
You see him, and I've said this privately, not to him, but I'll say it because I've said it about him. You grow up in the South. You're a black dude growing up in the South. Got a lisp, if I remember correctly, when he was growing up.
Yep.
Academic issues because they weren't a priority early on in his life.
Yep.
Imagine what he endured. Imagine how people talked to him. Imagine how people talked about him.
Yep.
Imagine how people treated him.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot, because when I see moments where he was sensitive in the past, all I thought about was, that would never happen with me. Because the first thing he would know is that I respect him. And the second thing he would know is that if he was worthy, I'd have love for him too. And I'm going to treat him like that. And I don't believe Shannon has been treated like that in his career outside of the locker room. I don't believe that people have looked at him and had genuine love and appreciation for him and what he brings to the table. And for me, I made sure, I told him when I was on Club Shay Shay, I said, bro, let me be very, very clear. If you ain't better off in the future than what you are right now as you getting ready to start your career on First Take, I have failed you.
Absolutely.
Everybody that come on First Take since I've been there, making more money.
And that's real.
And that's real. Or whatever. And I'm like, yo, it's my job to make sure. You know, he was talking about, he said because I didn't know any of this. He was like, when he was on Fox, he's like, I couldn't promote Club Shay Shay. Oh, that's a wrap. We gonna promote that. You can look for that on the lower third every time you on the show. That's a wrap. You gonna see that promoted too. What else you got? What is it? Shea by La Portier, whatever the hell his cognac is.
Yes.
I said, where the bottle at? Where the bottle? We gonna do that too. Why? Why would I stop you? Come on, bro. We all in this together. So let's sit up there. We could debate. We could have our fusses. We could have our arguments for the purposes of this. We can't agree on everything. You know what I'm saying? That's what the show is supposed to be. We're supposed to be disagreeing. Right. We're supposed to be debating. But I got you. Let's make this happen. And now he just signed a new 4-year deal. So I'm really, really happy for him. I wish him nothing but the best. I'm so proud of him because he came there, and I'm very big on that. And this is what I have to say. I'm talking about Mina Kimes, Kimberly Martin, Monica McNutt, Nail Gumake, Andrea Carter, Ryan Clark, Spears, Dan Orlovsky, Mad Dog Russo, all of these folks, Kendrick Big Perk, Jay Williams, even J.J. Redick when he was there before he became the coach of the Lakers, and all of this other stuff in between. I don't know if anybody in this business can say this. Every single person that contributes to First Take was told personally by me what we needed in order for the show to be successful. Not one of them let me down. Not one. I don't know if somebody can look at the show and see like 13, 14, 15 different contributors. And every single one of them gave you all they had and gave you what you asked them to give you. Every one of them, because let's call it what it is. My ass was on the line when Max Kellerman walked away. When Max Kellerman was taking off First Take, my ass was on the line. Because the network didn't sit up there with a smile of, there you go. Oh, it's your show now. Enjoy.
No.
They said, here you go. Like, they didn't use those words, but they were like,
shoot or dribble, they told him.
You better get it done. Yeah. So I knew. And the eye of the storm was on me. And I knew that. And so it was important that we succeeded, and for me to go to everybody and for them to come through the way they came through for me. Right. All of them.
That's impossible to do.
All of them will have my support.
I mean, because that's 15 different agendas.
Right.
And, I'm a long time. Sure. I watched the show.
Yeah.
I still text on the regular.
Right. Yes, he does.
All right.
Yes, he does.
Get them. Stick a knife in him.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I still watch it. But for people, they have to really respect the leadership because, man, there's different courses for different horses.
Right.
And everyone's trying to promote their own brand, their own thing. But you see them. They walk within the confines of that show when they're on that show.
Well, I will say this to you. Molly Karam has done a great job hosting the show for years. And with the departure of Skip and then Max Kellerman thereafter, she's become more of a voice on the show, which I think is a good thing. Mm-hmm. She deserves a lot of credit. The producers, James Dunn, a guy by the name of James Dunn is a producer, just got promoted. He's going to be coming off the show, but he just got promoted, and he deserves it. Derek McKinnon, a Pete McConville, the leader that is Dave Roberts, the executive VP of ESPN.
Tell Dave Roberts I said what's up.
Absolutely. You know, his incredible leadership in terms of supporting the show and being dogged about a commitment to winning and his tireless commitment to holding folks accountable to get the job done. There's so many, Sam Tanucci and other producers on the show and what have you. If I'm proud of anything, Dave Roberts, Brandy, our director, the other names that I mentioned, there's African Americans behind the camera contributing to making the show successful. That was not the case when I arrived.
No, that's a lifetime in the making.
There were no black folks on the show until I arrived, if we going to be real about it.
Yep.
And so for me, that's what I'm proud of. That's why I tell people to kiss my ass when I tell you, they don't know what they talk about because they don't know the kind of stuff that I do behind the scenes to make stuff happen. Everything ain't meant for everybody to know. You understand? Mm-hmm. You can't say everything in the midst of stuff going on because you got to get stuff done. And sometimes things like you have a contract negotiations coming up with the Minnesota Vikings or the Philadelphia Eagles, somebody. You can't just go out there bloviating yourself. Your agent might do it.
Right.
Your lawyer might do it.
Right.
The team might do something. But if you do it, it's a different animal because you got it can create problems. Everything ain't meant to be said and revealed in the time that people want it. Sometimes you got to wait. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you got to be calculating. Sometimes you got to position yourself better and all of that stuff. And so, for me to want diversity on the staff, and I think one of my greatest accomplishments is the fact that there's so much diversity at ESPN, and there isn't a single boss that will deny that I've had a heavy hand in making sure that happens.
Mm-hmm. So, question for you about you changed a lot of people's lives for the better throughout everything.
So.
Well, it sounds like the evidence seems to be that you definitely did, right? Like you've and that's been one of your goals, and you've accomplished that, and that's amazing. When Cris and I first met, he was talking to me about NIL.
Okay.
Because me, I was like, okay, what's that? Like, I get it, but what's that? Right. He's doing his thing at FAU. We're talking. You know how Cris is. He come right at you. He's like, if I had this, I'd get this. And I was like, all right, let's get this so you can get that. And for years, I never understood. Like, I went to the police academy for 3 months when I was a kid, and then I got fired. I was 21. Okay. It was a good thing I got fired because I've been a really bad cop. Okay. And they had a course one day. They said, you pull somebody over, you have $100,000 unmarked cash, what would you do with it? I said, take it. Like, I'm not, like, and the guy's like, no, seriously, no. You mean like unmarked, like you never know, and y'all are going to take and give it, you're not going to do anything good with it. I'd take it. Right. And he was like, I don't think you're like going to be good here. I was like, shit, you all are weird. I would take it. I wasn't at Ohio State at that level. Mm-hmm. My mom wouldn't have been able to afford, so I would have taken it. I wasn't in that situation. When you asked me if I think I would have taken it. Right. Your take on NIL currently and what you think could be done to improve that situation for all these young folks out there producing so much athletically and so much money for everybody else.
And you've been a proponent of guys getting paid for years.
I still am.
100%.
And I still am. I'm not backtracking from that one bit. I think that you got to get, if not completely out of the picture, you've got to diminish the roles that agents are playing in it, because the agents come with such a boatload of knowledge that programs and head coaches running the programs feels like it's a form of embezzlement that they're experiencing, having to deal with this kind of stuff. And so that's a dead end, because the agent's going to try to milk you for all they can get, because that's what they do. And the programs are going to try to be resistant to all of that. But what I will say about NIL is that it's long overdue, and whatever suffering the NCAA has to endure because of it, it's of their own doing. If you spend such an inordinate amount of time exploiting and getting over on people for decades, eventually your comeuppance is going to arrive. And that's what has happened. The landscape of college sports is changing before our eyes, but it's something they could have prevented quite a long time ago. If they were thoughtful enough, if they were reasonable enough, etc. When you're sitting there and suspending dudes for getting a jersey, for having a meal paid for them, for getting a flight home to see their family during the holidays, when you're that much of a stickler for the rules, when it came to people you could exploit, but you certainly didn't harbor those rules for yourself and limited your own ability to monetize whenever you could, you are a hypocrite. And ultimately, you have to pay the price for that. So it's not clean. There needs to be modifications and alterations. Changes need to be made. Congress will likely have to get involved even more so. There'll have to be some policing of it to some degree to ensure that competitiveness isn't compromised in any way, that the integrity of sports isn't compromised. But ultimately, they're going to have to do so while simultaneously compensating the student athlete, because you got away with not doing it long enough.
So the agents, is that the same? Because I can't understand this. I'm trying to figure it out. They have collectives. Is that the same concept?
It's totally different.
Okay.
So the collectives are university-based. The agents, they're picking up kids once it became legal for them to get kids.
So the agents coming into school and going, I got it.
So a lot of the kids that we have dealt with and we have paid, they had not had agents, but the collective hired a lawyer to represent our kids so that they can have balance on both sides. Because if universities approach them, they don't have any legal representation, that's not a good deal. So I made sure to make sure they had legal.
So each school has that.
Yes.
And they don't. Do they take a piece of the money coming in?
Oh yeah. They're
course.
taking 20%.
Got it.
We had that. We had that argument.
Right. Correct. Piece of
But it's important. It's important because what you'll have. See, he says legal, which he's absolutely correct about. But let's understand the importance of it, because with professional sports, you have collective bargaining. Student athletes don't get to collectively bargain because they haven't been unionized. And so because of that, you're taking advantage of them because you know they don't have representation, which is where the lawyer comes in, because the lawyer reminds you that you can be a criminal on the street and you're dirt poor, but they will still get you a public defender. Somebody and everybody has the right to representation in our country, but the student athlete in collegiate sports did not. It made no sense. And so you got away with making that argument for years because you use your bully pulpit to pull it off, but it's not working anymore.
So what do you think happens to the landscape of college football? Does this allow, like we talk about this a lot just down here, does it allow it to become more competitive? Does it allow it
You can say that. I think it'll be more competitive from the standpoint that if you're omitting the Power Four conferences, for example, nobody's going to compete with them.
Thank you.
Nobody's going to compete with them. I mean, they're on another level. They're a matter of fact, that might as well be college football. Because nobody's going to care about anything outside of the big four conferences, with the exception of respective universities that have their specific fan base. Outside of that, you ain't paying attention to anything outside of the Power Four conferences.
Right. Not unless they get into the playoffs with 12 teams.
That's
you know, 4 teams will have the bye.
That's right.
But it's still an arms race. It's about money.
It's an arms race. It's about money.
Ohio
It's about
State,
money.
Alabama, Georgia, if you look at their collectives, how much money they said that Coach Saban was cussing on the air, talking about Ohio State spent $21 million on the roster.
Right. Oh, yeah, because he's been pissed off about that for quite some time.
And that's your guy, right?
That's
my guy.
right? Yeah.
That's my guy. That's why he left. That's why he left, because, he felt like it was extortion.
But what's weird, I remember when him saying, I left because they were asked how much money they're going to get, how much playing time they're going to get. And I'm thinking, what I know from where I sit and watch, I'm thinking, that's what I'd be asking?
Yeah, you can say that.
That's all I know.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, let me retort to that. Yeah, that's true. That's usually what you would be asking. Here's the problem. Not of somebody of the ilk of Nick Saban. Like,
that's true.
He's a 7-time champion.
Yeah.
6 times at Alabama with an inordinate amount of players who've come through his program to go to the pros. And so his job is to get you ready for that next level.
Yes.
He may not word it that way, but in his mind, it's like, how dare you come to me? This ain't Drexel. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
This ain't.
Right.
St. John. I mean,
Yeah.
I think somebody like Rutgers. This is Alabama. This is the SEC. Who the hell you think you talking to? Coming to me with that, like, looking for guaranteed playing time and guaranteed dollars. Well, what the hell do I get out of that? Because I don't know. There's nothing about you that's guaranteed. So give up the guaranteed money or give up the guaranteed playing time, but to require both, while in the same breath offering me no guarantees in return because a twisted ankle, getting your cleat stuck on the turf and tearing your ACL or Achilles, anything could happen to you. There's no guarantees for me. And so that's how he's thinking about it, and that's the difference. For people like him, or an Urban Meyer when he was at Ohio State, you look at Dabo Swinney when he was on his run with Clemson and stuff like that. You look at some of these great coaches that exist. They think they're above that. I think in Nick Saban's case, he was, but most are not.
A couple of questions about National Football League. Getting ready to kick off the season.
Yeah.
The excitement around the league every year, it's ridiculous just because how many teams actually have a chance.
Right.
I think right now we're at an all-time high as far as the competent quarterbacks that we got throwing the football.
Okay.
I mean, the number of guys that have impressive resumes or up-and-coming young guns playing the game. I'm going to go the first one I'm going to go Dallas Cowboys. Now, I know for a fact you talk about Dallas Cowboys an awful lot.
Yeah.
But I do believe that Jerry Jones is making one of the huge mistakes of his career, late in his career, by not signing Dak Prescott before the season.
Okay.
If Dak Prescott goes through the season without being signed by the Dallas Cowboys, he will be the most sought-after free agent in the history of the NFL besides Reggie White when we had the lawsuit when free agency was. Okay. Because there are so many teams, New York, the Giants and the Jets, the Saints, the Raiders. There's so many teams that could utilize his services.
Yeah. Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was going to get to them because they got a great contract situation with their quarterback. Give me something on Dallas, Dak Prescott, and Jerry Jones' lack of ability to sign him before the season.
2 things can be true. Dak Prescott could be one hell of a quarterback, which he is, who is going to command top dollar, which he will. He has, you can't franchise tag him. No franchise clause in his contract. No franchise tag clause, and he has a no trade clause. So you're Jerry Jones, you have no leverage. Based on that reality and what we know Dak Prescott to be during the regular season, he's going to command his dollars, and he's going to deserve it. Nobody's refuting that. But here's the other thing that could be true. The brother hasn't shown up in the playoffs. You want to telling him beating up on a soon-to-be retired Tom Brady in Tampa? Fine. You want to bring up his first playoff appearance against Aaron Rodgers when he balled, and Aaron Rodgers just balled a little bit better, particularly scrambling to his left and throwing that dime down the left sideline? Fine. 4 consecutive years, Dak Prescott hasn't shown up in the playoffs. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I don't like the fact that somebody like that could be in a position to command $60 million. That's just me. Now, I'm not saying that he don't deserve the 50.
So you just don't believe that next up, because I don't believe in that theory.
Well,
I do. I believe when you can put the accolades, and if there's a certain amount of time, but I don't believe just because your contract's up, you should be the highest.
I don't believe that either.
And I believe they got some contracts, 4 or 5 of them.
Well, Micah Parsons, you got to take care of him too. But I will say this to you. And I've asked this on First Take, and I'll ask it to you, CC. How come I can't look at Dak Prescott and say, is there another quarterback that I can get cheaper that I think can give me 2 playoff victories in 8 years? How come I can't do that? He's had 8 years as a starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys.
I mean,
he's
can't,
won 2 playoff games.
You'll never be wrong in asking a question.
But check this out. September winning record, October winning record, November winning record. In December, I believe his record is 21-8 in his career. In January, it's 4-8. He doesn't show up in the postseason. And if I'm the Dallas Cowboys and I'm living in an age of a hard cap, CeeDee Lamb had to get his money. Micah Parsons had damn well better get his money. I got to look at cats. And I'm not saying you throw Dak out to pasture like he's some scrub. I'm saying exactly the opposite. He can ball. He can play. So what does that say to you that you panic come January? Because he does. And if I was sitting before Dak Prescott and I was talking to him, I would ask him, my brother, can you legitimately look the audience in the face and say that you didn't panic come January? Panic. You know this better than me, CC. You see dudes you know the difference better than me. You know the difference between a cat that just make a mistake and a cat that gets a little bit shivery. I mean, he just gets a little bit shaky. You know what I'm saying? The composure dissipates drastically as the lights get brighter come playoff time. That is a fact.
It is a fact, and I just think that people lose their objectivity when you put price tags on these players.
Okay.
We're sitting in a house right now. Every house I ever been in had a motherfucking roof on it. So every athlete I ever met got a ceiling to what he can accomplish.
Right.
We don't want to accept someone's ceiling. I mean, motherfucker bumping this, he ain't gonna get no better.
But there's a reason.
You have reached your max, especially with the personality and the philosophy. To me, he might be a little more free on another team.
I agree.
Because Jerry Jones, everyone can't take that. And Jerry Jones is not who he is today when Troy Aikman was winning the Super Bowl.
Did you hear what I said on TV the other day?
Yes.
I said if Dak Prescott was someplace other than the Cowboys, he might win the Super Bowl. But that spotlight, that bubble, you understand that lens. I said, look, y'all, listen, Dak Prescott, his first 4 years in the league, had a couple of Pro Bowl appearances, a playoff victory. He made $4.9 million. What does it say to you that over the last 4 years, those are the same results, and he's made $157.4 million? So in other words, I'm paying you more than $150 million more than I was paying you, and you giving me the same results you gave me when you were making $5 million. What's that say to y'all? Like listen.
No, you got a great point there. No, you can't argue the numbers now.
Come on now.
People talking about the numbers never lie. When you put them out and you get somebody to explain, that's exactly what has happened. Let's look at the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
Because I love Mike Tomlin.
So do I.
Now, he is a dude. He is definitely one of the top 5 coaches that we have.
Yeah.
What do you think their quarterback situation, how it plays out? Will Russ remain the starter, or are they going to try to do some type of slash with Justin Fields and play both the quarterbacks?
It's a short sample size. The regular season hasn't started yet at the time that we're doing this interview. But the quarterback situation is trash. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have one. Let's call it what it is. You can't decide who the quarterback is because neither of them separated themselves during the preseason. Now, in Russell Wilson's case, I think his numbers was like completed 70% of his passes, no interceptions, but no touchdowns. Offense relatively anemic, wasn't really getting anything done. Justin Fields, same thing. Okay, one's younger, one's older. Russell Wilson's at $1.2 million because Denver paid him $37.8 million to go away.
Go home.
Okay, and Russell and Justin Fields was required for a conditional third-round pick. I mean, come on, man. You know, listen. The only thing good you can say about the Steelers quarterback situation is that one must believe it's an upgrade from Kenny Pickett,
Yes.
Mason Rudolph,
Right.
and Mitchell Trubisky. That's about it. There's nothing else that you can really say about the Steelers situation. And then let's look at the talent. We know with T.J. Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick and those brothers on the defensive side of the ball,
Yeah.
we know they're going to do some things.
Top 5 defense.
On offense, I would remind y'all, they got Najee Harris, and they got this kid Jalen Warren out of the backfield who can ball. So you got to run a game. Freiermuth is a damn good tight end. And then you got Pickens as one of your cats on the outside. Now, I really, really wanted them to get Brandon Ayuk, but he was smart to stay in San Francisco, and I get that. But I got to tell you, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, they got enough weapons to make some noise if they had a quarterback that you knew you could trust. And here's the biggest problem. It's bad enough you're not sure about your quarterbacks. It's worse when you take into account the division they in. That's Lamar Jackson.
Yes, sir.
That's Joe Burrow.
Yes, sir.
And by the way, at some point, Deshaun Watson got to remind us what he was like
and that
in
Browns
Houston,
defense. Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because we know what the Browns defense can bring to the table. And look at the weapons that they got on offense, included with Amari Cooper and Njoku. I mean, they got a monster division. And you look at the Steelers' last 11 games of the year. Do you realize that you could make a legitimate argument that the Steelers will be lucky to win 2 games in the last 11 weeks of the season? Look at that schedule.
Right.
It's scary.
Can I give you some bad news about Pittsburgh, though?
Go ahead.
This is just from,
Because he knows I'm a Steelers fan. I'm very disgusted.
It's over the last year and a half, not myself, Coach Tomlin, other people in the organization have had conversations about their wide receivers.
Yes.
And actually, they were trying to bring me to Pittsburgh to sit in the wide receivers room for a week to try to get them straightened out. Now, they went on and fired the wide receiver coach, hired another guy who is a great guy, and I've been communicating with him.
Okay.
So when he gets hired to the job, guess who doesn't call him for the first month?
Who doesn't call?
Yes.
Doesn't call you.
Doesn't call the wide receiver coach.
Who?
Pickett's, the receiver.
Wow.
Doesn't report in. He calls him, hey, man, this is Zach, man, new wide receiver coach. Ain't heard from the kid. So Brandon Ayuk, he wanted to go to Pittsburgh for the tradition and everything. Didn't like their quarterback situation long term, but didn't want to be in that room compared to what he was leaving in San Francisco.
Right.
So that's the other reason why he was fighting that. He definitely wasn't going to New England because they're not going to win.
No, right.
But he's like, I'm not changing world-class San Francisco, how they do things, and their quarterback and their defense to go to Pittsburgh. So a lot of people don't realize Pittsburgh.
And he still got $30 million.
Yes.
Which was good. Because they were talking 26. He got 30.
And that's what, when you have the weight of holding out and you are due compared to Chase with the Bengals.
Cincinnati better take care of Chase, though. Chase deserves his money.
But listen, let me tell you something. You need to also understand who you're negotiating with.
Mike Brown.
Because I grew up outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. And Mike Brown has been telling the Bengals players for 40 years, you either take this or go pump gas.
Right.
That's the kind of shit he been
Well,
telling.
I would say you're right. But here's why I think, and I think Jamar Chase knows that. Here's what makes it different. Cincinnati went to back-to-back AFC championship games and went to a Super Bowl before last year. Joe Burrow has been in the league for 4 years now. His first year, he got hurt. Last year, he got hurt. The 2 seasons he was healthy, he was in the AFC championship game. And 1 year, he went to the Super Bowl and beat Patrick Mahomes to get there. So let's understand something. If you're Mike Brown, if you're Jamar Chase, what you're hoping and praying for is that they value Joe Burrow to the degree that they did. They just paid him $55 million a year. Right? Joe Burrow need that brother. Jamar Chase has to hope that Joe Burrow is up there speaking to ownership. I need him. Because it's just like when you talk about First Take.
No, absolutely. No.
What do they do?
No, hey.
Stephen A.
Hey,
You should say
bro.
they call. Why?
Yeah.
Because I got to go up.
Right.
You think ESPN just want to give money? It ain't happening.
No.
Trust me, I know this.
Yeah.
Okay? They ain't trying to just do that.
They must be forced to.
It's like, y'all, this is what we need in order to win. That's what you want to do. And so, anytime you're the leader of the pack, even though you hesitate to get involved, sometimes you have to, especially when you're a direct beneficiary of that individual's greatness. Joe Burrow is Joe Burrow, but it helps to have Jamar Chase. Okay, you got to recognize that. Like years ago, that was one of the things. Donovan McNabb, that's my man. I love D-Nab to death. But when they got into the issue with him and T.O., I sort of sided with T.O. to some degree. And here was the reason why. No matter how problematic people wanted to say he was, right? Donovan McNabb, you spoke up for Brian Westbrook at the time. You can't speak up for Brian Westbrook and not speak up for T.O. Now, don't say nothing about nobody.
Right.
But you can't speak up for a running back and don't speak up for the wideout. Especially when that wideout had y'all balling. And even though y'all went to the Super Bowl without him because he got hurt before the playoffs, y'all were rolling that regular season, which ultimately put you in a position to have the top seed, which enabled you to get to the Super Bowl that he was able to come back from and damn near win for you against New England. So I'm like, you got to know who you benefit off of. It's like, you can't be a quarterback and speak up for somebody else before you speak up for the receiver.
Right.
Can't do that. And if you Joe Burrow, in a perfect world, it's their negotiations, it's their business. You don't get involved at all.
Right.
But if you ever feel the need to get involved, there's only two people that you break that rule for: a wide receiver or your tackle.
Yes.
If you a southpaw, it's your right tackle.
Right.
If you conventional, it's your left tackle. You're the person that's protecting your blind side. Those are the two people that you get involved, and you break exception, and you make an exception for.
My advice to the Bengals would be the same advice I gave to the Minnesota Vikings 2 years ago. We were in London.
Right.
What about Justin Jefferson? I said, well, he will be the best receiver in the league.
Right.
I would sign him right now to $30 million. Now, Tyreek Hill hadn't got his $30 million yet.
Right.
And the guy looked at me, the general manager, brother Quasi, like, oh, bro, I said, it's going to cost you more than that. So they didn't sign him to $30 million.
Right.
It ended up costing him $35 million a year.
That's how it usually works.
And with him having 2 years left on his contract, I would sign him to the $30 million. He still got 2 years, so that would bring him down under $30 million average a year, with the other 2 years added to the other 4 years. Good with point. The 35.
Good
so
point.
You would have him for 6 years.
Good point.
At under $30 million?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing that deal.
Yeah. I agree with you.
But this is the Bengals.
Well, it's the Bengals, but again, what would be stupid in Mike Brown's part, first of all, the NFL isn't what it used to be. They print money now. You got to be an absolute flagrant idiot not to make money as an NFL owner. Remember years ago, when the whole Colin Kaepernick kneeling controversy took hold of the country, not just the National Football League. Remember that year, each owner received a check for $246 million apiece.
October 1st.
From the television deal.
That's when they get paid,
So,
October
all right.
1st.
So what I'm saying to you is that's the money you're getting to put in your pocket. Okay? So consider
Not a ticket's been sold.
Not a ticket. No
No jerseys.
Zero. Just $246 million for you. Here you go.
Yes.
Here you go. Per owner. You cannot. And so knowing that and knowing the money that the NFL generates, you can't penny pinch if you're Mike Brown and the Bengals, knowing that with that quarterback, you got a chance to win it all. Because you got to remember something. Patrick Mahomes is that dude. He is spectacular. He is the Michael Jordan of football. Outside of Tom Brady beating him because he couldn't get the ball back.
Yeah.
Okay, he couldn't get the ball back. That's why he lost to Tom Brady. He couldn't get the ball back. It wasn't his fault. He couldn't get the ball back. But Burrow beat him.
Yep.
Okay? Anybody else beat Patrick Mahomes? Tom Brady, and Joe Burrow. I'm Mike Brown. I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about this crew that I have. And I'm like, wait a minute. I got to keep this brother. Now, to Jamar Chase, let me say this to you, my brother. Don't know him, never met him. Mad respect for him. Great player at LSU, great player in the National Football League. When you want your money, bro, you don't show up to practice 18 minutes late with shorts and a sweatshirt on or whatever it is, acting like you don't give a damn about anything because you ain't get your money. I didn't say go out on the field and practice. I didn't say endanger yourself by, running routes and doing all of this stuff.
Brandon Ayuk in San Francisco.
That's right. Just show up.
Yes.
Show up, be a pro, and let them know, listen, I can't get on the field until my contract's resolved.
Right.
But I want to be here. Let me lift these weights. You know what I'm saying? Let me make sure they know I'm still in shape and I'm ready to go the second it's signed on the dotted line.
Right.
I can walk right out. See, that's what T.J. Watt did. Remember that?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
T.J. Watt, literally, T.J. Watt was telling management, look, man.
In Pittsburgh, just like Cincinnati, they won't pay you.
According to the reports, they went in the office. And T.J. Watt was like, can we finish? I need to get out to practice. Like, y'all holding me up. Right. You know what I'm saying? That's what you want. You know what I'm saying? That's what you want. And it's in any line of work. It's in any line of business. You got to show your commitment. So many times I'm talking to youngsters, man, and I'm like, you get paid, A, because of what you've done. B, because of what they project you'll do. But understand that both premises are based on trust. If I can't trust you, I can't invest in you. Yeah, I can. It's one thing to trust, okay, you're going to give me the same results. But it's another thing to trust whether you're going to have the will and the commitment to want to do it. You got people getting paid, but they give you the impression, I can take it or leave it.
Right.
This is expendable. This is not that important. You cannot do that.
Right.
When your hand is out for somebody else's money. So I'm not knocking Jamar Chase in any way. I'm a fan. Even though I'm a Steelers fan, I'm a fan of his.
No, you're just talking business.
I'm just saying, bro, don't let them have an excuse to mess with your business.
Can I tell you a story
Sure.
that I've never told before?
Please.
And when you were sitting there telling that story, I could see and it's when you hear the story, obvious reasons. But we're at the draft in 1998. Now, at that point, Jake Reed and myself had broke the NFL records as far as combination receivers on the team with 1,000-yard seasons. We had 3 in a row. That broke Jerry Rice's record. And then the next season, we had 4 in a row. So Denny Green calls me for the draft. Hey, bro, we're going to draft Randy Moss. I was like, he's the number 1 on the board. Coach, we're 21. There's no way he's going to be. He said, no, bad rumors going around about it. He's going to slip. I think Dallas had 17 or something like that.
And they passed.
If he gets through Dallas, we're going to get him. So Jake calls me on the phone. Hey, bro, what's going on? I said, man, I think they're going to draft the Moss kid. He says, what we going to do? I said, if they draft that dude, I got a plan. Don't say nothing. I got a plan, though. Go through the draft. He's falling. Denny Green gets him. They call me. AC, you got to take care of him, man. He's going to be calling you. Moss calls me. Dawg, what's up, man? Okay, bro, we got to get you to Boca. We got to get you a Florida driver's license. No state tax. Going to save it on the signing bonus. I'm going to save you so much money. Forget about football. I'm going to save you so much money. Come down here and start working out with me.
Because they tax high in Minnesota.
Click.
They tax high.
Yes. Click. I called the general manager, Jeff Diamond. Hey, Jeff, what's going on, Chris? I said, bro, I ain't coming back up there. I ain't coming to Minnesota. What you talking about, Chris? I said, man, y'all just drafted this kid. I just watched him high hurdle a motherfucker.
Right, at Marshall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see what's that. I'm 33. I done made 5 straight Pro Bowls. I see the writing on the wall. Y'all getting ready. Y'all want me to drop all this information into this kid, and this kid, I got 1 year left of my contract, then y'all gonna put me out somewhere. No, that ain't getting ready to happen, man. I ain't coming to Minnesota. I ain't stepping foot in the state. I ain't coming to no mini camp. And y'all explain to the people why I'm not here. Mm-hmm. I ain't going to say one word until you get my money right. Well, what's that look like? I said, Michael Irvin makes $6 million. Jerry Rice makes $6 million. I want to be in the same neighborhood. I want to be able to see their fucking house.
Right. Right.
So he said, well, we don't look at you as Jerry Rice. I called Jerry on the phone. Jerry, answering machine. I said, Jeff Diamond, Jerry Rice ain't available. I called Mike Irvin. Hey, man, you got the playmaker? Ain't available right now? I said, the playmaker ain't available. I'm everything to you. So either come up with my money or I won't be here, or you can explain to the people of Minnesota where I am. We had Red McCombs as an owner. Red said, Chrissy, gonna take care of you, son. All right? You been good at the organization? He came up, they gave him $18 million. 3 years, $18 million. They came up with the money, tore up the last year of my contract. I didn't say a word. This is the first time I ever said anything about it.
Wow.
And I got great love for the Vikings organization. I got great love for Randy Moss and everything. But, man, business is business.
Business is business.
And if I would have allowed them, they would allow me to play out my last year. Hey, you know, maybe we trade you somewhere, go somewhere. But no. And it ain't a Randy Moss thing. It ain't a hate thing. Mm-hmm. You know, because, I mean, him and I end up going to 3 straight Pro Bowls together and everything. Right. But, man, you got to take care of that business.
I appreciate the story. It's very enlightening and timely. Yeah. I thank you for that. I thank you for that. I never heard that story before.
And you explain to the people why I'm not here.
Yeah. That's not bad. Not bad. Great story. Yeah.
Take all my wisdom and then put me out to pasture. That ain't getting ready to happen, man.
Yeah.
That ain't getting ready to happen.
Yeah. I can relate. Yeah.
Last year, my contract.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fascinating story. I'm just, you know, once this comes out, I'm going to make sure that I carve out that clip and play that, you know, in the morning time, just to remind myself, you know, as I'm discussing stuff.
Even Moss don't know that.
Right.
There was no need for him to know that.
That's right. But you let me know it. Right on time.
It just seems like it,
right
you know?
Time.
A little birdie told me.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Now, Kansas City.
Yep.
Going for the 3-peat. Mm-hmm. And anything the NFL does, for the most part, is good for business.
Right.
But having that storyline with who Patrick Mahomes is, I told him, he asked me first time we really met and we were getting together about the podcast, he said, who's Patrick Mahomes? I said, just imagine 20 years ago, I told you Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes is that dude.
Right.
Like if you look over the next 20 years, look at it.
He's spectacular.
That's Tom Brady. Give me Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, because Andy Reid is one of the few coaches that almost everybody loves, too.
For those who have the Kansas City Chiefs as the favorites, I don't blame you one bit. Mm-hmm. Patrick Mahomes is just special. He's an electrifying talent, etc. Travis Kelce, my brother from another mother, major props to him and his new deal with for New Heights, the podcast with him and his brother, and the deal that they got with Amazon, well deserved. I love this kid Worthy that they got out of Texas. They need speed and they need receivers that ain't gonna drop the damn football. And I think they've got one in that brother right there. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you see their running game with Edwards-Helaire and all of that. You got it. I'm still going with the field though. It's not about Kansas City and my reverence to them. Mm-hmm. It's about my respect for the incredible, great athletes that exist throughout the National Football League. I will remind you that Kansas City was being outplayed by San Francisco.
Yes.
They could have easily been
every one of their Super Bowls they could have lost
as a Super Bowl champion.
Yes.
Without question. So let's get that out the way, okay? That's very, very important to bring up. I'm looking at Detroit. They are coming. I'm looking at Jordan Love in Green Bay. We can't ignore what we're seeing from them. I'm looking at the Los Angeles Rams with Cooper Kupp back with Puka Nacua and what they bring to the table with Sean McVay and his ability to coach. I know they don't have Aaron Donald anymore, but damn it, I mean, they still good. And Philadelphia, look, y'all, they lost both coordinators last year.
Yes.
Sirianni's got something to prove because his job, he ain't careful. Bill Belichick might have his job.
Come on,
okay, you better be careful. All right, he lost both coordinators last year, but this year you still kept Goddard at your tight end spot. You still got A.J. Brown. You re-upped him at about $32 million a year. You got Devontae Smith. You got one of the best offensive lines in football, even with Jason Kelce now having retired and is going to be a part of ESPN's Monday Night Football. And then you pick up Saquon Barkley. You talk about somebody that you got the ability to dip and dunk the ball to. That's that brother. And so I look at it from that standpoint, and I'm like, yo, I can't sleep on what I'm seeing on the potential of the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's just the NFC. Yes, mention Dallas in there, fine.
Yes.
But that's just the NFC. What about the AFC? What about the Jets with Aaron Rodgers? And Garrett
He's
Wilson?
a bad
He's
man.
a bad man. That's a bad brother right there. Breece Hall and those boys. What about Baltimore?
Yes.
What about Baltimore? By the way, they only lost 17-10. You understand?
Zay Flowers.
Zay
Come
Flowers,
on, bruh.
Zay Flowers holds on
Come
to the
on, bruh.
football. Zay Flowers goes on to football. That game goes into overtime, possibly, or they win. Who knows? I can't ignore that. Well, you got Deshaun Watson instead of Joe Flacco. You going to step up and get over the doldrums that you self-inflicted upon yourself with all the off-the-field stuff? All right? You show up on the football field and show us what you can do. We know what Deshaun Watson could do.
Right.
With the weapons that they got in Cleveland. Yo, you can make some noise. I'm looking at that. I'm saying, wait a minute now. And then Houston. I'm supposed to sleep on Houston? You got Stephon Diggs now. C.J. Stroud's a stud. I'm looking to take Dell and these brothers. I'm like, wait a minute now. And Mixon's on there, if I remember correctly. Right? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Joe Mixon there now? I don't remember. Yes. So I'm like, yo.
Danielle Hunter on the outside rushing from the Vikings.
Yo, listen. There's some cats in the AFC. You look all around it. Of course, Kansas City should be the favorites. But can they be had? Yes. Yes, they can. And I think that I'm going to take the field. They're going to be there. They're going to have something to say about it. But I think somebody, it's the NFL, man. I mean, the three-peat, that's unreal.
Yeah, I thought I'd never see it.
That's right. Listen, Dallas won 3 in 4 years, but they ain't three-peat. You know, somewhere along the way, somebody comes along to knock you off that pedestal. And I definitely think it's plausible that that could happen in Kansas City. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yeah, smart dude.
Okay.
He's got an extension, I believe.
Okay.
What do you see for the Dolphins?
Nothing. Let me tell you why. I've had this pet peeve about it. I've always been this way, CC. Always been this way. He know where I'm going. You know, it's interesting. You know, you talk about coming from New York and down in Florida, you know. Life is nice, you know. You know, I mean, it's just, you're sweating a little bit more. Tan gonna kick in. You know, the branches of a tree or something like that hit you don't hurt quite as much as it did when you're in the cold weather. You understand what I'm saying? Being frigid and fragile because of the frigidity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you down here, life is different.
You're a little
A
soft.
bit more, a little softer.
Get
Get a little softer.
You know, little softness.
It's amazing what it's done for my spirit. I mean, I'm not nearly as angry. You know what I'm saying? I'm not near.
Now, are you getting used to? Are you used to getting the squirrels and the iguanas compared to the rats in New York?
No, ain't no rats. Ain't no damn rats. The iguanas, yes, they eating up my damn trees. I don't like that. Okay.
Yes.
All right, them damn lizards running around up here reminding me of Jurassic Park. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The frogs by my garbage can and shit. I mean, I got all that. But at the end of the day,
I got extra pellet gun, man. If you need it.
Man, I got a pellet rifle, man. Please, come on. Let me do that. It's legal in Florida. Yeah. All right, so I'm just sitting there, I'm looking at this, right? I'm going like this. Stuff happens. And you're going like this. Yeah. It'll be all right. Yeah. Tomorrow's nothing. It's going to be okay. It's no big deal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, you know, you just sit there. Man, I got back to New York last week. You know, I was in New York because, you know, I'm back and forth. I'm bi-coastal of New York, L.A., Florida, all this. I'm all over the place, right? And I go there, and I'm in New York, and me and my bodyguard, man, we stuck in traffic. We just went like this. Man, this is some bull. This is some BS, man. Now, mind you, we were stuck in traffic flying from Florida. Okay? We were stuck in traffic in Florida. It just didn't quite agitate us.
It don't hit that way. No.
The same level of agitation didn't exist compared to what happened in New York. I was in Cali. I was in L.A. Weather was beautiful. Okay? But then I went to the gas station, pumped some gas. And I like this. This is expensive.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It ain't Florida.
It's not Florida. You know
No.
what I'm saying? So I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and again, you just get comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. And then I look at Tua Tagovailoa, and I know the brother can play. He's not a scrub. I'm a fan of his. When he was at Alabama, got a lot of love for him, won the national championship game. They had to bench Jalen Hurts, threw him in the game. He throws a bomb to win the national championship to Devontae Smith to beat George Ikeda. I was there. I was there in attendance for that one. It was a great moment. And I'm looking at them, and I'm like, everybody talking about all these numbers. And Mike McDaniel's brilliance. Mm-hmm. Never mind that that Brian Flores didn't have Tyreek Hill. We won't forget that. This is the cheetah we talk about.
They was 9-4.
This is the cheetah we talk about
when
here.
Tua was healthy. With Brian Flores last year, they was 9-4.
That's right.
When
and Ryan Fitzpatrick throwing quarterback in most of the season.
Yes.
Let me tell you something.
Yes.
They ain't had no Tyreek Hill.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't want to hear about Mike McDaniels. I'm not saying he can't coach. I'm not saying he didn't deserve an extension. But damn it, you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Please, sit down, okay? Or stand up on the damn sidelines. Let's get to Tua. I'm watching the Miami Dolphins. Do you know what their record is at 40 degrees or below? 0-11. Mm-hmm. They're winless. Do you know that they have a record?
He's a small dude, and they say everything genetically gets smaller when it gets cold.
That's right.
I mean,
so
just
check this out.
do the math.
Yeah. How about that, right?
I'm just saying,
How
dog.
about that, right? How about that? I mean, I wouldn't completely subscribe to that because I hop in a cold plunge, you know what I'm saying, from time to time, and,
yes,
you know, vital organs haven't shrunk. Let's just leave it at that.
Yes.
But here's the deal. At the end of the day, do you know that they haven't won 35% of their games below 70 degrees?
Yeah.
Like this is football. You got to be able to win under those conditions. Now, let's think about what we just said here. Miami, AFC East. Who's in the AFC East? New York,
cold,
Buffalo, New York, New England. AFC North, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland.
They weren't Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City, West, Denver, West. All right? How are we? Listen, they Chargers got a chance with Harbaugh so far. Okay, I got that. But I feel the same way, a little bit different because Herbert's bigger, and I think he'd be better under cold weather conditions. But then you look at, you know, again, the South, all right, that's different because you got Indy, but that's dome. You got Houston, you know, they could close the roof. Dome. You know, you got Jacksonville, that's a warmer weather environment.
So you say unless they got home field advantage, don't put no money in.
The only way I can believe in the Miami Dolphins is if they get the number one seed, home field advantage, and the road to the Super Bowl has to come through Miami, South Florida. If that ain't the case, I have no belief in them. Last year, when they put out the playoff seedings, they came to me and they said Kansas City against Miami. I looked into the camera and I asked everybody, "What's the weather report?" First question out my mouth. It was -10. I said they don't stand a chance. This is a wrap. And you knew it because opening tip-off, you saw cats rap.
Yes.
But on Kansas City side, they hopping up and down the sideline. Let's go. You know why? Because they're accustomed to it. You cannot be averse to inclement weather. And I expect success from you as an NFL team. I don't.
I'll give you one last question, and we'll wrap it up. You'll give me one last question. I think that's probably the best way.
Both of y'all, it's all right. It's good.
Being born and raised in Connecticut, University of Connecticut, that's what we had. You know what I mean? I'm in the middle, New York, Boston.
Right.
So, like, basketball was big. Loved Calhoun, loved the team, know his family really well, and it was Sundays, great people. So watch them win national championships, and then they didn't win for a little while. You know, Hurley's got them back up and running. Obviously, things are going good. But when I went to games after that, like, nobody was at the games when they stopped winning. Like, you could walk in and get a ticket. And I realized in my own little mind, damn, basketball is different than football because it don't work that way for me. So my question is, the Cowboys, the valuation, the money. You talk a lot today about doing the things you've been doing, bringing people along with you. Chris was talking about that example was amazing.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones, I'm born and raised in business where you win, you get paid. That's my business. I lose, I don't get paid. In Dallas, do you believe with the current situation, Jerry, the whole deal, do they got a chance to win a Super Bowl? Not today. In the way it's structured now.
They have a chance.
Okay.
They have a chance. I don't believe they will. And through no fault of the Cowboys, just their fan base, I'm hoping they don't, because it's the most disgusting, nauseating fan base that I've ever encountered. I mean it. I love to troll them. I love them trying to come at me and the whole bit, because it's all in fun. There's nothing hostile or anything. It's just But it's like when you look at the Cowboy fan base, I've just never seen anybody in my life. I mean, if a nuclear bomb dropped, 3 things would survive: rats, roaches, and a Cowboys fan. I've said that on many, many occasions. It's just the truth. Everywhere they go, it's like they can win 3 games. They can win 1 game. It doesn't matter. We're going to win Super Bowl next year, right? I mean, they never take any time to smell their own stench. Everything is always rosy with them. They make me sick about that. But I learned to stop getting angry about it and to use it to my advantage to troll them. And that's what happens. So, people say, we talk about the Cowboys all the time. We have 15 different segments a day on First Take. We never talk about the Dallas Cowboys more than 1 or 2 times at the most. But I enjoy it because it's cathartic for me to know that I am contributing to their suffering. I'm talking about the fans, not the team. I love Jerry Jones, like Stephen Jones. Love the players, stuff like that. Micah Parsons, that's my dog. Love him to death. You know what I'm saying? Trayvon Diggs. I love these brothers. But it's that damn fan base that get on my nerves. They got a chance, though, because they got a quarterback if he stopped panicking in January. They certainly got the receiver, a number 1 receiver. Their tight end, Ferguson, is no joke either. Brandon Cooks is a secondary option, but he's pretty damn good. And, again, their defense, they're switching to a 4-3 now from a 3-4. They were a little bit too small, so if you got back their initial front line, you can run into their secondary. You could chunk up yards and make sure things happened. They're changing that up right now with Zimmer as the defensive coordinator. We'll see if it works. But in the end, when you look at them, and you look at Detroit, Philadelphia, San Francisco, Green Bay, especially those 4, they're better than the Cowboys. When I think about Jerry Jones, let's understand something. Tex Schramm is who made the Dallas Cowboys America's team, because he had them put on Thanksgiving. And when you had them put on national television and you had them put on Thanksgiving, they reaped the benefits of that. So as a result of it, folks gravitated to them because you actually associated them with patriotism more so than you did the New England Patriots. And so you have to look at it from that standpoint. And then Jerry Jones comes, and what does he do? First of all, it started with Tom Landry and that damn hat and the suits and the way he dressed on the sideline like a businessman. And they did things with their formations, lifting up, going back down. All this. They just had style. The cheerleaders, don't get me started with that.
Right.
All cheerleaders emanate from the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. They were the original
the hole in the
ones.
ceiling so God can watch the Cowboys play.
That's right.
Yes.
No, so God can watch them cheerleaders. But that's a different subject for another day. The point is that
if it's God, he got angels in heaven. He don't need them. But go ahead.
There you go. But the point that I'm making is, he brought the angels down to the Cowboy cheerleaders. That's what happened. But the point is that with all of that happening, right? They made their money. They became household names. Then you thought they were going to fade when Roger Staubach stepped away and stuff like that. And then Jerry Jones arrived. And what did he do? Fired Tom Landry. Fired him. They go 1-15. And from the stories I heard, when they brought in Michael Irvin, when they came up in there, Jimmy Johnson went to Michael Irvin, who need to go? And Michael Irvin was like, the locker room, this person, that person. See, we don't want to act like it. That's leadership. Because that brother sat up there and said, I know what it takes coming out of Miami. I know what it takes to win. And these brothers don't have it. They too comfortable with mediocrity, if not worse. And he wasn't having it. He cared that much. And it was like, it's certain moments, and I'm saying this because I've said it separately, but I'm going to lump it all together to show you how much love that I actually do have for former Cowboy players. One of the greatest moments to me was when the Super Bowl runs were over and the Dallas Cowboys was sinking. And Michael Irvin was on the sideline, standing up, crying, tears streaming down his face, right? And he was standing alone. And it meant everything to me because he was a champion, and he was letting the world know that what was miserable to him is that he knew he wasn't surrounded by champions. He wasn't talking about results. He was talking about up here and up here, right? How would I know this? Because I did television with this brother. And I saw this brother look at me, and we talking about what we gonna do when the lights come on. And that's the brother I saw on that football field. See, you don't have to win at something specific to know what winning is. You have to win at something. You understand what I'm saying? You have to win at something.
A coach told me,
right,
when you see it, you know it.
You know it.
When you smell it,
there you go.
know it.
There you go.
And when you taste it, the taste will never leave your mouth.
It never leaves. And so to see that, right? And then I remember another one of my moments was when Emmitt Smith held out. They won the Super Bowl, and Jerry Jones wouldn't pay him.
Yep.
He had paid Troy Aikman. He had paid Michael Irvin.
Yep.
He had paid, offensive linemen.
Defensive
took
player,
everybody, but was holding out with Emmitt. And Emmitt, they lost the first 2 games, and Jimmy Johnson came out, didn't say a word to the press. He just threw up his hands and just got up and left because he couldn't take it, because it was like, it's obvious what we need. It's obvious who we need. And Emmitt signed his deal, and at the time it was for $13 million.
Yep.
It was the largest contract for a running back in NFL history. I would give anything. Could y'all, anybody, just go back and look for the tape of Emmitt Smith in that press conference with Jerry Jones right next to him. I'd never seen a person to this day in my lifetime that signed a record deal that looked completely pissed. Pissed. He was like, because his words, as a reporter,
Emmitt's a different dude, too.
As a reporter,
yes,
you didn't need to ask him anything. His face said it all. I can't believe this goddamn person has me sitting here 0-2. I had to wait. I'm the leading rusher. We are Super Bowl champion. I'm an all-pro. I'm balling for you, and you gonna hold out on me? It meant everything. Why does stuff like that matters? Because when we're sitting on television in the business, when you're surrounded by winners and cats who did it at an elite level, you know what it takes. And as a result, you know what to do in your chosen profession to get to that point in your chosen profession. But you also know that while you're talking about sports, you're able to have reference material to point to. If I'm looking at a professional basketball player, a football player, a tennis player, a boxer, or anything, I'm looking at it and I'm saying, all I know is what winners have taught me. They didn't teach me that wins. I remember one time, Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, a lot of people didn't know how tight we were, but we were pretty tight. And I remember one time when I saw, y'all saw the video of Kobe on television when he was on the Jimmy Kimmel show? And they showed, they had a 14-game losing streak. He was hurt, he was out. The team had a 14-game losing streak, and they had finally won a game. And then Nick Young and Carlos Boozer and all of them were in front of the camera acting silly. And he showed the clip to Kobe Bryant, and Kobe Bryant looked totally pissed. Remember that? Like, he just didn't say anything, right? Because he knew what winning was, right? And that wasn't it. But I remember when I was watching an interview, and Lamar Odom, God bless him, one of the nicest people you could ever meet in your life. But Lamar Odom was doing an interview, and the interview was him highlighting how he ate Skittles and Twizzlers and all of these,
Yes.
just
Junk.
a boatload of candy.
Yeah, junk
and
food.
the first words out of my mouth was, oh, that brother in trouble. When Kobe sees him, because he was still on the team with Kobe, I said, when Kobe sees him, that shit ain't going to be pleasant. Because I knew that Kobe would wake up 4:35 in the morning. He's working out at 5:30. He's confident. He's careful about what he put into his body. And he's doing all of this. And I knew how mad Kobe got at Shaq because he was telling the big fella, get in shape, let's do this, bro, let's win another chip, blah, 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 blah. And then he'd walk in the training room and Shaq was eating 3 Big Macs. So I knew this, right? And I'm like, you mad at Shaq for Big Mac? Shaq's 7'1", 350. It's understandable how he gonna eat some Big Mac. It does taste good. You know what I'm saying? The brother hungry. And even though it's not the greatest thing in the world for you, it ain't awful compared to that. I said, Kobe gonna kill him. And because I know what they've taught me about winning. And I'm able to judge accordingly. It's a reference point, which is why I'll sit up there. You have athletes, you have all of these people talking about. I said, notice they don't challenge me face to face in person in front of a crowd.
No.
I said, you know why? Because they know I got receipts. Wait a minute.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Did you say?
Right.
Ain't this what it is?
Yep.
Is that what it is? So you get mad at me for telling the truth about your performance, about your game, not about personal.
No.
Well, you go ahead, kick rocks, keep on it. I'm going to do me. I'm going to do what I'm going to do because that is what and he knows this because like he told you, he's one of the people that do it. Every segment of every show, you'll see me looking down. Because I have people texting me all the time.
Yep.
He's
Sources.
one of them. But many.
Sources.
Every single segment of every single show, I get text messages from the actual subjects involved or from experts who are saying to me, yo, Stephen A., don't let him get away with that. Boom, boom, boom. On top of what I know, I'm buffered by expertise from people who've done it. So I'm like, yeah, you're going to be uncomfortable with me because this is what I'm bringing because you're giving bullshit. And I'm not letting you get away with it because they told me what the information was. That's what it is.
Well, I appreciate you, man. You're unfreaking believable, dude.
Thank you, man.
This was a lot of information. It was a great lesson for me. Cris Carter, I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for being on. Stephen A., this was a great, unbelievable start.
Yeah, man.
So thank you very much for all that. Thank you all for watching Fully Loaded. Like, subscribe, share. My man Stephen A. And
The
if
real.
I believe anything about betting, man, I bet I'd see you on Monday Night Football. So thank you for being here today.
Who knows?
Hey, and I really
Holla at
appreciate
your
meeting you.
boy.
I mean, man, I really do. Appreciate y'all. Thanks, guys.